The likelihood of you ever going to a church and having heard someone say that it's time for you to pay tithes and offerings, but we'll focus on the tithes, is pretty high. Why is that? Well, truth be told, many churches either do so, one, out of ignorance, not knowing what the purpose of the tithe is for, or in some cases, let's just be honest, out of greed. The issue is, though, what does that do for you? Is there a danger?
Hello and welcome. Today we are going to talk about the truth about tithing. Many Christians have been taught that tithing is a mandatory practice in the church, but is it really? Let's dive in and find out. First of all, let's define what tithing is. Tithing is the practice of giving 10% of your income to the church. This practice comes from the Old Testament, where God commanded the Israelites to tithe in order to provide for the Levite priest and the poor of Israel. However, this practice was specific to the Israelites and was not intended for the New Testament church. Nowhere in the New Testament do we see Jesus or his disciples teaching or commanding tithing. In fact, Jesus spoke about the importance of giving from a cheerful heart, not out of obligation or duty. He also praised a poor widow who gave all she had, even though it was not a tithe. This shows us that God cares more about our heart and attitude towards giving rather than the amount. So where did this idea of tithing in the church come from? Sadly, it was introduced by greedy pastors who wanted to profit from their congregations. They took the Old Testament law and twisted it to their advantage. Instead of using tithes for the care of the poor, they used it for their own personal gain. But let's remember that Jesus came to fulfill the law, and we are now under grace. We are no longer bound by the laws of tithing in the Old Testament. Instead, we are encouraged to give from a generous heart, as God has blessed us. 2 Corinthians 9 verse 7 says, "Each of you should give what you have decided in your heart to give, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver." So next time you hear a pastor preaching about tithing, remember that it is not a commandment for the New Testament church. God does not want us to give out of guilt or fear of not being blessed, but out of love and gratitude for what he has done for us. In conclusion, tithing is not a practice for the New Testament church. We are called to give cheerfully and generously, not out of obligation or duty. Let's focus on our heart and attitude towards giving and not on a set percentage. Thank you for watching, and don't let anyone guilt you into tithing.